Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Zero Day Con. In 2022, the world has redefined what disruption means. And the leading cause of that is the war in Ukraine. This kind of disruption shows that cybersecurity is as much impacted by geopolitical events as it is by technological advancements. It was a turbulent year for many organizations across the world. We saw critical operations being brought down. We saw sensitive data being compromised, a whole country going offline. And also we saw advancements in cyber war, but also technologies that we use and we trust in our operations, in our day-to-day operations, were being attacked and weaponized. And right now, the world is facing several major crises at the same time, in what has been coined a polycrisis. Rising inflation, supply chain disruption, energy shocks, and cyber war. Russia has unleashed not only its kinetic efforts and war efforts in Ukraine, but also its cyber efforts. And this means that the height of these cyber efforts are threatening our position today, and the consequences of the cyber war are showing that we are all connected at a global level. What happens in one country, in one organization, across the world can affect us all, not only economically, but it can also potentially disrupt our lives. And this is exactly why we've chosen Connect as this year's theme for Zero Day Con. The reality is that organizations are constantly playing catch-up when it comes to cybersecurity. If there's anything that research shows is that change is the only constant, and phishing is rising as a result of all of the disruptions that are happening at the moment. Supply chain attacks are rising. Business email compromise is growing significantly. We've seen several cases where individual business email compromise have resulted in millions in terms of losses. Stolen personal data is being compromised and exfiltrated on the dark web, and the academic sector is a prime target for that data. And ransomware deployments are now much faster than they were 5 years ago. But there are three key factors that are shaping the three key macro trends that are shaping the industry today. First of all, security leaders need to prioritize the maintaining of visibility and governance over their data, their systems, and their third parties. Because of this constant digitalization of business systems, the on-demand information systems, and the data that is sprawled across multiple environments. And this means that organizations need to look at this risk from a very dynamic perspective, because these environments are quite dynamic. Geopolitical instability is continuing to fuel the cyber war. And this may take many different forms, from DDoS attacks to misinformation campaigns and to potentially destructive attacks on critical infrastructure. What this means for the industry is that there are more and more innovative and destructive methods of releasing cyber attacks. But not only that, it also means that cyber criminals are now using these tools that eventually get dumped on the dark web, tools used by nation states, to create more commoditized cybercrime. The global skills shortage is a massive problem for the industry. There are 3.5 million jobs that are open now in cybersecurity. And this means that organizations need to increase their automation efforts, but also it means that by 2024, more than 75% of organizations worldwide will outsource their cybersecurity. In order to navigate these challenges, security leaders are adapting their approaches and they're elevating their risk management approaches. First of all, security is complex. It's very difficult to solve all security problems. And what organizations are now looking at is optimizing their cybersecurity efforts, simplifying their cybersecurity, and removing unnecessary complexities. And this means a consolidation of security tools. This means adoption of more holistic cybersecurity frameworks, such as cybersecurity mesh architecture. Improving resilience is also key. If you read the National Cybersecurity Strategy that was recently released by the Biden-Harris administration, it's not a very lengthy document. You'll see the word resilience being mentioned 72 times in this document. It's not a matter of if, it's not even a matter of when anymore. It's a matter of how you handle when an incident happens. Cyber risk is now on the agenda for every board meeting across the world. And organizations are approaching it from a different perspective than they were 2 years ago. They're looking at their key initiatives in a more focused way. They're looking at their threat and vulnerability management programs. They're looking at their data programs. They're looking at cloud, third parties. And the reality is that you can't use the same approach for all of these key initiatives. But one of the most important items that is changing is the fact that more and more organizations and CISOs are trying to embed cybersecurity culture into their entire organization. Data security is seeing a shift as well. And the interesting part is that a few years ago, organizations were asking questions like, okay, if there's an attack, how can we restore the data? What is our backup? What does it look like? Is it healthy? How long does it take to restore? But because of these constant disruptions, what we're seeing now is they're moving from a more reactive state to a more proactive state. And the questions are changing. The questions are, how do we prevent data compromise in the event that we face an attack? What this is showing us, all of these trends, all of these priorities, is that cybersecurity is not just a tech problem anymore. Gaps are not addressed by technology alone. And security leaders are looking at their risk posture more holistically, and they're looking at their business functions, and they're asking themselves questions like, what are our critical operations? How do we secure them? What do we fix first? Because it's impossible to fix everything. And how can we stay one step ahead of the cyber enemy? Companies are spending large amounts of money on threat intelligence every year, millions. And when we ask them, how have you changed your cybersecurity protections and strategies on the basis of this intelligence, most of the time the answers are limited. Companies need to take the threat intelligence they consume, they need to analyze it, and they need to use it to form their basis of their strategic initiatives in order to fight the cyber enemy. And the cyber enemy does not look like this, but rather like this. It's a hyper-connected criminal system, most often fueled by Russia, China, North Korea, with effective operations that run very similarly to how a normal business runs, with tech departments, with data governance departments, with customer service, even HR. And this is exactly why cybercrime will cost the world $10 trillion by 2025. At the start of my presentation, I mentioned disruption, and throughout I emphasized the need for resilience. And the reality is that there's a large disconnect between disruption and resilience. And connecting the two means recognizing that organizations can respond in ways that not only will help them overcome their challenges, but also learn how to build the capacity to navigate challenges in the future in the event of other disruptions. Because resilience isn't about just bouncing back from a crisis, from a disruption. It's about building cyber risk management, systematic crisis management, and building cyber culture within an organization. Enjoy the day.